Staff Sergeant Sarah Chen crouched behind a fallen log, her hand steady on her rifle as she scanned the smoking wreckage before her. The alien ship had torn through the forest canopy just minutes ago, leaving a trail of broken trees and scattered debris in its wake. Protocol demanded she call it in immediately, but something made her hesitate. The summer heat of this contested world made sweat trickle down her back as she watched the twisted metal of what appeared to be an escape pod. It was different from the usual Drachnid ships they encountered, more elegant with sweeping lines that reminded her of ancient sailing vessels. A groan echoed from within the wreckage. Sarah's training told her to stay put and wait for backup, but 6 years of combat experience had taught her to trust her instincts. The sound wasn't threatening. It was filled with pain. Moving silently through the underbrush, Sarah approached the crash site. Her motion scanner showed only one life sign, growing weaker by the minute. As she reached the damaged hull, a panel suddenly shifted, making her jump back and raise her weapon. What emerged wasn't the enemy she expected. A tall figure stumbled out, easily 8 feet in height, with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer in the dappled sunlight. The alien wore what looked like ceremonial armor, now damaged and stained with bluish blood. But what caught Sarah's attention most was the delicate crown-like structure woven into the alien's long white hair. The alien's eyes, all 4 of them, focused on Sarah. They were a deep purple, filled with both pain and pride. "You, human." The alien spoke in broken English, her voice carrying a musical quality, despite her obvious distress. "Yes," Sarah replied, keeping her rifle lowered but ready. "I'm Staff Sergeant Sarah Chen, United Earth Defense Force." The alien straightened despite her injuries, showing remarkable composure. "I am Karatha, Crown Princess of the Zenith Empire." "And I." She swayed suddenly, her tall frame beginning to collapse. Sarah moved without thinking, rushing forward to catch the alien princess before she hit the ground. It was like trying to catch a falling tree. Karatha was incredibly heavy despite her elegant appearance. As Sarah helped ease her to the ground, she noticed severe burns along the princess's side. "Your Highness, you need medical attention," Sarah said, already pulling out her field medkit. She knew helping an alien could be considered treason, but she couldn't just watch someone die, even if that someone was 8 feet tall and definitely not human. Karatha's laugh was weak, but carried a hint of irony. "You show concern, for one who considers your species primitive. Perhaps." She winced as Sarah applied a universal coagulant to her wounds. "Perhaps we are the primitive ones." Sarah worked quickly, using her basic medical training as best she could on an alien physiology. "Right now, you're not a Zenith princess, and I'm not a human soldier. You're injured, and I'm someone who can help." As she worked, Sarah's comm unit crackled. "Base to all patrols. Unknown ship detected entering atmosphere. All units report in." Karatha's eyes widened with fear, an expression Sarah never expected to see on such a regal face. "They come. They must not find me." "Who?" Sarah asked, though she already had a sinking feeling she knew the answer. "The Drachnid Collective." "My." "Intended." Karatha spat the word like it was poison. "I refused the marriage alliance. If they find me, both our peoples will suffer." Sarah looked at her comm unit, then back at the injured princess. Everything she'd been taught told her to report this immediately. But something in Karatha's eyes, the desperation, the determination, reminded her of herself. Making her decision, Sarah switched off her comm unit. "Then we better make sure they don't find you, Your Highness." She didn't know it yet, but in that moment, Staff Sergeant Sarah Chen had just changed the fate of 2 civilizations. The abandoned ranger station wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. Sarah had chosen it carefully, far enough from patrol routes to avoid detection, but close enough to her base to maintain radio contact if needed. She watched as Karatha ducked through the doorway, the alien princess still looking graceful despite her injuries. "It's not exactly a palace," Sarah said, clearing old leaves from the wooden floor, "but it should keep you hidden until you heal." Karatha touched the rough wooden walls with curiosity. Your structures are so organic. We build only with metal and crystal. She winced as she sat down, her tall frame making the small cabin seem even smaller. Why do you help me, human? Your people and mine have never been friends. Sarah pulled out her medical kit again, checking the princess's wounds. The burns were healing surprisingly fast, but the deep gash in her side still worried her, because it's the right thing to do. And because anyone running that hard from something usually has a good reason. The princess was quiet for a moment. All four of her purple eyes focused on Sarah's hands as she changed the bandages. The Drachnid Collective proposed an alliance through marriage, she finally said. My father, the Emperor, agreed without consulting me. They would have access to our technology, and we would have their military might to finally. She paused. To finally deal with us humans. Sarah finished, keeping her voice neutral. Karatha had the grace to look embarrassed. Yes, but I had begun to doubt our assumptions about your species. Your art, your music, they showed something we had missed. When I learned the Drachnids planned to use our technology to enslave both our peoples, I knew I had to act. A distant rumble made them both tense. Sarah moved to the window, checking the sky. Another search patrol, she said. They're getting closer. The Drachnids are persistent hunters. Karatha said. They will not stop until... She suddenly grabbed Sarah's arm, her grip surprisingly gentle despite her strength. You must leave me. Return to your base. I will not have you risk everything for... Not happening. Sarah interrupted, checking her rifle's charge. I've already broken about 15 regulations. Might as well break a few more. The princess stared at her in confusion. I don't understand. Your military protocol. Protocol doesn't always equal right, Sarah said, pulling out her tactical pad. Now, instead of arguing about why I should leave, help me figure out how to fool their sensors. You know their technology better than I do. Karatha's expression shifted from confusion to something like respect. You are. Not what I expected, Sarah Chen. My people speak of humans as simple, predictable creatures. Yet here you are, defying both your own rules and our prejudices. Sarah grinned as she pulled up the local terrain map. That's humanity's secret, Your Highness. We're at our best when people underestimate us. Working together, they began planning. Karatha's knowledge of Drachnid detection systems combined with Sarah's groundside combat experience created strategies neither would have thought of alone. As the alien princess explained complex technological concepts, Sarah responded with simple but effective guerrilla tactics that made Karatha's eyes widen with surprise. As night fell, Sarah caught Karatha watching her with an odd expression. What is it? I was taught that humans were beneath us, the princess said softly. Yet in one day, you have shown more nobility than those who claim to be my equals. Perhaps both our peoples have much to learn from each other. Sarah just smiled and kept working on their plans. She had a feeling they'd both be learning a lot in the days to come. 3 Drachnid scout ships circled overhead like metal vultures, their search beams cutting through the evening mist. Sarah and Karatha lay perfectly still under a camouflage net, watching from their hiding spot in a shallow cave. They had abandoned the ranger station just hours before the first ship appeared. They're using a triangular search pattern, Karatha whispered, her silvery skin dulled with mud for better concealment. Standard Drachnid hunting protocol. Sarah nodded, studying the ship's movement through her binoculars. Standard means predictable, and predictable we can work with. She pulled out her tablet, showing Karatha a map of the area. See these mineral deposits? You said their sensors have trouble with certain metals. Yes, the princess confirmed. Particularly the one you call copper. It creates interference. A slow smile spread across Sarah's face. Well, Your Highness, welcome to the Copper Ridge mining region. There's a reason we built our forward bases here. They waited until the search pattern shifted, then moved quickly through the forest. Sarah had to admire how quietly Karatha could move despite her size. The princess had proven to be a fast learner. picking up human stealth techniques as if she'd been born to them. Another patrol coming, Karatha warned, her 4 eyes allowing her to watch multiple directions at once. 3 o'clock, low altitude. Sarah grabbed Karatha's hand and pulled her toward an old mine entrance. They slipped inside just as the ship's searchlight swept past. The princess had to crouch to fit, but she didn't complain. The copper in these walls should mask our heat signatures, Sarah explained, leading them deeper into the mine. And I got something else they won't expect. They reached a small chamber where Sarah had stashed supplies. She pulled out what looked like small metal discs. These are thermal decoys, usually used for training, but, she grinned, I might have borrowed a few from the base. Karatha picked one up carefully with her long fingers. You would use training devices against actual hunters. Sometimes the simplest tricks work best, Sarah said, showing her how to activate them. We'll plant these in different locations. When they turn on, they'll show human heat signatures. The drachnids will waste time checking empty locations while we move in the opposite direction. The princess shook her head in amazement. Such a simple solution. My people would have tried to create complex technological countermeasures. Yet your method requires fewer resources and has a higher chance of success. A distant rumble made them both look up. More ships entering the atmosphere, Sarah said grimly. They're getting serious. The collective does not accept failure, Karatha said, her voice tight with worry. Every hour they don't find me, they will commit more resources to the search. Sarah checked her ammunition and supplies. Then we better make sure those resources are wasted. Come on, I'll show you how to place the decoys for maximum effect. They spent the next few hours setting their trap, moving carefully between copper deposits. Sarah taught Karatha the basics of guerrilla warfare, while the princess helped her understand drachnid search technologies. Together, they created a plan that neither species would have thought of alone. As they watched the first thermal decoy successfully draw away 2 search ships, Karatha touched Sarah's shoulder. You know what makes humans truly dangerous? She asked softly. What's that? You don't think like warriors or nobles or politicians. You think like survivors. And that makes you far more formidable than any of our tactical computers could predict. Sarah just smiled and started programming the next decoy. Sometimes the best compliments came from those who used to be enemies. Sarah's radio crackled to life at the worst possible moment. She and Karatha were crossing an exposed ridge, using the pre-dawn darkness as cover. All units, priority alert. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. They quickly ducked behind a rock formation as Colonel Martinez's voice continued. The Zenith Empire has formally accused Earth of kidnapping Princess Karatha. They demand her immediate return or face military action. All personnel are ordered to report any alien contact immediately. Karatha's 4 eyes widened with alarm. This is my father's work. He would rather start a war than admit I fled the marriage alliance. Well, that complicates things, Sarah muttered, checking their surroundings. We need to find a way to contact someone who will listen to the truth. A high-pitched whine filled the air. They looked up to see not just drachnid ships, but now Zenith vessels joining the search. The sky was becoming crowded with potential enemies. There is one person, Karatha said slowly. My sister, Amira. She serves on the Imperial Council and has always questioned the Drachnid Alliance. But reaching her won't be easy. Sarah thought for a moment, then pulled out her tablet. Maybe we don't need to reach her directly. Look at this. She showed Karatha a map of communication relay stations. Your people built these to monitor our communications, right? Yes, Karatha admitted. We use them to observe your transmissions. Perfect. Then let's use them to send our own message. Sarah started typing calculations. If we can access one relay station, we can bounce a signal through the network. The drachnids won't expect us to use Zenith technology. They moved carefully through the forest, avoiding the increasing patrols. Sarah noticed Karatha growing tenser with each Zenith ship that passed overhead. Having second thoughts about betraying your people's plans. she asked quietly. The princess shook her head. No, I'm realizing how blind we've been. We called humans primitive because you lack our technology. Yet here you are, about to use our own surveillance system against us. That's not primitive. That's brilliant. They reached the relay station just as the sun was rising. It was a sleek silver tower, humming with energy. 2 Zenith guards patrolled its base, their tall forms moving with military precision. I can distract them, Karatha offered. My rank shoaled. Too risky, Sarah interrupted. They might be loyal to your father. She pointed to a maintenance panel near the ground. We don't need to go through the front door. Sometimes the primitive approach works best. Using tools from her pack, Sarah quickly bypassed the panel's security. Karatha watched in amazement as the human soldier used simple mechanical skills to defeat advanced alien technology. Within minutes, they were inside. The encryption codes change daily, Karatha said, looking at the control panel. Even with my royal access, they might have locked me out. Sarah grinned. Good thing we don't need to break the encryption. She pulled out a small device. We just need to piggyback on an existing signal. Sometimes being underestimated is an advantage. As they worked together to compose and send their message, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Multiple ships approaching, Karatha warned, her eyes scanning different directions. Drachnid and Zenith. They must have detected the signal. Did the message go through? Sarah asked, quickly gathering their equipment. Yes, but Karatha paused, looking at her human companion with concern. Sarah, if we're caught, you'll be accused of kidnapping me. The penalty is probably better than letting the Drachnids start a war. Sarah finished. Come on, Your Highness. We've got more running to do. As they slipped away from the station, Sarah realized that saving the galaxy was turning out to be a lot more complicated than she'd expected. 3 days had passed since they sent their message. Sarah and Karatha had taken shelter in an abandoned mining office, surrounded by surveillance equipment cobbled together from both human and Zenith technology. The princess watched in fascination as Sarah connected Zenith communication crystals to an old human radio. Your message reached me, sister. Amura's hologram flickered in front of them. The transmission was risky, but necessary. There are others who share your doubts about the Drachnids. We've been gathering evidence of their true intentions. How many support our cause? Karatha asked, leaning forward. 1/3 of the Imperial Council stands ready to act, Amura replied. But we need proof of the Drachnids' deception to convince the others. Sarah, who had been monitoring their perimeter, turned to the hologram. What kind of proof? Their ships carry hidden weapon systems, Amira explained. Far more than needed for a peaceful alliance. If we could expose this. Suddenly, their warning systems beeped. Multiple contacts, Sarah announced, checking her screens. They're getting closer. Karatha's expression hardened. Sister, there's a Drachnid command ship in Sector 7. If we could access its database. That's suicide, Sarah interrupted. It's their most heavily guarded vessel. The princess turned to her with all 4 eyes gleaming. Not if we use human tactics. They expect grand strategies and advanced technology. They don't expect. What did you call it? Guerrilla warfare, Sarah smiled, already understanding where this was going. Amira, can you cause a distraction? Something to draw attention away from Sector 7. The hologram nodded. I can arrange for a malfunction in several Zenith patrol routes. It should create enough confusion. They spent the next hour planning. Sarah was amazed at how quickly the Zenith siblings adapted to human strategic thinking. Amira suggested using maintenance tunnels that ran through the Drachnid ship, passages the proud Worrier race considered beneath their notice. Our people call humans primitive because they lack our technology, Karatha said as they prepared their equipment. But we never considered that this makes them masters of operating without it. Sarah checked her modified rifle, now enhanced with Zenith energy cells. Being underestimated has its advantages, ready to show them how primitive we can be. They moved through the forest toward their target, using techniques Sarah had taught Karatha. The princess now moved as quietly as any human special forces operator, her tall frame no longer a hindrance. Amura's distraction worked perfectly. They watched as Zenith patrols suddenly veered off course, causing Drachnid ships to scramble in confusion. Using the chaos as cover, they approached the command ship's lower maintenance hatch. "Guards," Karatha whispered, pointing to two Drachnid warriors near the entrance. Sarah pulled out a small device. "Remember those thermal decoys? I made some modifications." She activated it, creating ghostly heat signatures moving in the opposite direction. The guards took the bait, moving to investigate. Sarah and Karatha slipped inside the ship, using access codes Amira had provided. "The database should be 2 levels up," Karatha said as they crawled through maintenance tunnels. "But security will be heavy." Sarah grinned. "Good thing we brought some human ingenuity to an alien fight." As they prepared to breach the database level, Karatha touched Sarah's arm. "You know, when this is over, both our peoples will need to change how they see each other." "That's usually how revolutions work," Sarah replied, ready to make some history. The princess nodded, her expression determined. "Let's show them what happens when humans and Zenith work together." They emerged from the tunnel, ready to face whatever came next. Sometimes, Sarah thought, the biggest changes start with the smallest acts of defiance. The Drachnid command ship's database room was eerily quiet when Sarah and Karatha entered. Rows of crystalline computers hummed softly, their alien designs casting strange shadows in the dim light. "We have 5 minutes before the security systems reset," Karatha whispered, moving to the central console. Her long fingers flew over the controls while Sarah watched the door, modified rifle ready. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. But these weren't for them. These were battle stations alerts. "Sarah," Karatha called urgently, "look at this." The screen showed multiple Drachnid battle fleets emerging from hyperspace, not just near Earth, but also around the Zenith homeworld. The collective had grown tired of waiting. "They're attacking both our peoples," Sarah said grimly. This was their plan all along. "The marriage alliance was just a distraction," Karatha agreed, quickly downloading the evidence. "They wanted our technology and Earth's resources. They'd meant to conquer us both." The ship shuddered as weapons fire struck its shields. Through the viewing port, they could see chaos erupting in space. Zenith ships were exchanging fire with Drachnid vessels, while human defense platforms activated. Sarah's radio crackled to life. "All Earth forces, this is command. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. All units engage hostile forces. We need to get this evidence to both our governments," Karatha said, securing the data crystal. "But the hangar bay will be too obvious," Sarah finished. "Good thing we still have our maintenance tunnel route." They crawled quickly through the narrow passages, feeling the ship rock with impacts. Sarah's tablet showed multiple battles erupting across the sector as both Earth and Zenith forces fought desperately against the surprise attack. They emerged from the ship just in time to see a massive explosion in orbit. A Drachnid destroyer had just obliterated a human defense station. "This way." Sarah led them toward a small human shuttle she'd hidden earlier. "Can you modify its transmitter to reach both Earth Command and your Imperial Council?" Karatha was already working even as they ran. "Yes, but we'll need to get closer to the main communication arrays." Through that, she pointed at the massive space battle overhead. Sarah powered up the shuttle, grinning. Time to show them how humans fly. The small craft shot upward, weaving through debris and weapons fire. Sarah flew unpredictably, using tactics no proper Zenith or Drachnid pilot would consider. Karatha worked furiously with the communication systems, combining human and Zenith technology in ways neither species had tried before. "Multiple missiles incoming," Karatha warned, her 4 eyes tracking different threats. Sarah rolled the shuttle through a series of maneuvers that made even Karatha grab her seat. "Almost there. Is the transmitter ready?" "Yes, but we need to get closer to that array." The princess pointed to a massive satellite dish ahead. Sarah dove the shuttle toward it, avoiding fire from both sides. Now, Karatha activated the transmitter, broadcasting the evidence to all ships in the sector. The data streamed out, showing the Drachnids' true plans, their hidden weapons, their intended betrayal of both species. The effect was immediate. The Zenith ships broke off their attacks on human vessels. Earth forces stopped firing at Zenith ships. Both species turned their combined firepower toward the real enemy. Look, Karatha pointed as human and Zenith ships began fighting together, their different tactics complementing each other perfectly. They're actually working together. Sarah smiled as she piloted them toward safety. Amazing what people can do when they stop underestimating each other. The battle was far from over, but as they watched human ingenuity combine with Zenith technology to push back the Drachnid forces, both Sarah and Karatha knew that this was just the beginning of something much bigger than either of them had imagined. 1 month after the great battle, Sarah stood in the grand hall of the Zenith Imperial Palace, feeling slightly out of place in her dress uniform among the towering aliens. Karatha stood beside her, no longer wearing the formal robes of a princess, but the new uniform of the Joint Defense Force, a combination of human and Zenith design. Still can't believe they made me a captain, Sarah whispered as they watched delegations from both species filing into the hall. Karatha smiled, her 4 eyes twinkling with amusement. They could hardly keep you as a sergeant after you helped save 2 civilizations, though I think you prefer being in the field to attending ceremonies. You know me too well, Your Highness. Not Your Highness anymore, Karatha corrected. Just Commander Karatha of the combined fleet now. The ceremony that followed was historic. The Emperor of the Zenith Empire, flanked by Amira and other reform-minded council members, signed the first true alliance treaty with Earth's representatives. Not a treaty born of fear or necessity, but one of genuine respect and understanding. The Drachnid Collective taught us all a valuable lesson. The Emperor spoke, his voice carrying through the hall. They assumed that our differences made us weak. Instead, those very differences have made us stronger together. Sarah watched as human engineers demonstrated their innovative solutions, while Zenith scientists shared their advanced technology. In just 1 month, the combination had produced ships and weapons that neither species could have created alone. Look there, Karatha pointed to a group of human and Zenith officers studying tactical displays together. A year ago, my people would have considered it beneath them to learn from humans. Now they eagerly seek your perspective. Sarah noticed young Zenith warriors practicing human martial arts, while human soldiers learned to use Zenith energy weapons. Funny how things change when people stop looking down on each other. After the ceremony, they walked through the palace gardens, where earth plants now grew alongside Zenith flora, another symbol of their growing cooperation. Did you ever imagine this? Karatha asked, gesturing at their surroundings. That day you found me in the crashed pod. Sarah laughed. I was just trying to help someone in need. Changing the course of galactic history wasn't exactly on my mind. That's exactly why it worked, Amira said, joining them. You didn't help me because I was a princess, or because it would benefit Earth. You helped because it was right. That simple human virtue showed us what we'd been missing. The 3 of them stopped at a balcony overlooking the capital city, where human architecture now stood alongside Zenith spires. In orbit, they could see the new combined fleet, human and Zenith ships patrolling together. The Drachnids are still out there, Sarah noted, her military training never quite letting her fully relax. Let them come, Karatha said confidently. They'll find a very different alliance waiting for them this time. Amira nodded in agreement. They thought humans were primitive because they lacked our technology. They thought we were superior because we had it. We were both wrong. True strength lies in what we can achieve together. Sarah smiled as she watched a group of human children touring the palace, looking up in wonder at their tall Zenith guides. You know what the best part is? Those kids won't grow up thinking of each other as aliens or enemies. They'll just be people, working together. And it all started because one human soldier dared to help one Zenith princess, Karath said softly. As the three of them stood watching the sunset over this new world they'd helped create, Sarah realized that sometimes the biggest changes in the universe start with the smallest acts of kindness. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Humanity and the Zenith Empire would face it together, each making the other stronger, proving that the greatest power in the galaxy wasn't technology or military might, but the ability to see past differences and work together.